We apologize, but we're going to say, what should we say to Terry today? We miss you.
Bonjour.
Miss you. Bonjour. Bon appetit, as he likes to say. Okay, ready? I'm going to start over here. I'm just going to go across the room. Ready? Okay, Becky, you're going to lead us off.
Bonjour, Terry. We miss you.
Oh, come on. I'm not. Come on. That's going to kill him. Jeez. Let's do that again. You ready, set? Wait till I say go. We'll start with my mom over there in the corner. Go.
We miss you, Terry.
Bonjour, bon appetit. Much better that time. All right, the restrooms are right down this hallway here. 0315 is our code today. And what else do we need to know? You're welcome to chat amongst yourselves until I tell you you can't, but it's not going to hurt our show at all. And we're going to have a little salmon taste with the next segment. Brigitte, don't ever call her Bridget. It makes her crazy. Call her Brigitte. We're going to need a little taste. I'm not sure who's working breakfast this morning. Is Drew working it? So, Drew, we're going to need a little taste of the salmon when it comes out of the oven for the next segment with some of the garlics. I know. I have it on low. Let it go. We'll temp it at 120, please. 125.
I have a 5 minute.
How's your blueberry muffin? Warm. My daughter Loretta. She's sitting in for Chef Terry today. Brand new mother of twins. 13 weeks today, right?
Yeah.
You have the picture of the twins still?
So fresh.
She made a delicious pot roast for dinner last night. I know, I was there.
Taste of the week.
We're not on the air yet. Although, are we on YouTube? Okay, good.
Yeah. Joining us at the dinner table. Oh, I'm a little, I have extra sexy radio voice.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, you ready to go? Loretta is also, Becky is, you haven't met Becky, she's our director. You've met our chefs in the back. Becky will be our audience motivator today. Yep. Well, we wanted to break you in slowly. All right, here we go. It's the Hot Stove Society show on Cairo Radio. Yahoo! I'm Chef Tom Douglas.
I'm Loretta Douglas.
My daughter is joining us in place of Terry while he's on hiatus. And we wish him the best of health. What's new there, Loretta?
Not a whole lot.
No?
You know? We've been back in school for 2 weeks. We've had 3 illnesses already. So
Yeah,
my
nice.
little family's going through it. But otherwise, we're super good.
There we go.
How about you?
Really good. Really good. I'm happy to be on the show as we are every week here in your kitchen, in your garden, in your car, wherever you happen to take us in. We love you for that. Becky Guzak is here as our producer. Sean, our technical director. And Sean DeTore is in the studio, who makes us all sound good on Saturdays and Sundays on Cairo. We're coming to you from the beautiful Hotel Andra in downtown Seattle. It's one of the finest hotel properties here in the city. We're thrilled to be on the second floor. If you're trying to find us sometime, if you want to buy tickets, we're on the second floor in the back.
Gotta come up the stairs.
And we have
Get your
beautiful,
steps in.
Hot Stove Studio kitchens. You could come just to take a peek. You could buy a class at hotstove.com. You could bring your corporate team here and do a team builder.
Please
A
do.
dumpling
We'd love
challenge.
to have you.
Nothing creates friends like making dumplings together. don't you think?
Nothing bonds
Didn't you see that movie?
bonds teams like competitive food.
See that movie, Crazy Rich Asians, where the grandma is teaching the second and third generations how to make her dumplings, and she's very persnickety.
Yeah.
The mom is probably more persnickety, but grandma was very much that way.
What's your favorite movie?
Classes here at the Hot Stove. We have a paella party on November 11th. So we've got Pass the Turkey with Me on November the 17th. I do a turkey class every year. We're talking about both whole turkeys and just kind of using a turkey part as your main entree. And then there's a Thanksgiving pie prep class, which is a make and take class, which people have a good time because they can.
Maybe I should come take it. Pies are always on my plate for Thanksgiving. So
no pun intended.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Both plates.
We're celebrating the last week of National Seafood Month as we welcome Frances Burch from Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association and Sam Mitchell of Salmon Sales. Charlotte Douglas will be here, no relation. She's part of the Row 17
family.
Yeah, and she's going to tell us all about the award-winning new garlic hybrid that is a little bit doesn't have the pungency of garlic and it's a little bit sweeter than a leek.
I've been told it just won Vegetable of the Year by Time Magazine,
well,
which I didn't know was awarded. But
I didn't know either, but you can thank your mother partly for that.
Yep.
Because she has been on the seed testing team for Row 7 for, I don't know, maybe
many
10 years now. Yeah. Charlie's Produce is here, Cultivating Fresh. We're partnering up with them on lots of different items that you see in your grocery store and in our restaurants. Jason Funfera is going to be here. Shortcut or Scratch. This is one where you and I kind of, I wouldn't call it a battle, but it's more of like, if you're going to take this shortcut, is it really worth it?
Exactly.
When you buy stuff that's already prepared in a grocery store, you're paying extra for it.
Yeah, so, and this one I'll be really curious to hear what you have to say about if it's worth it or not.
Yeah, I mean the grocery store calls it value added, but essentially what's added is the labor to do what you want to get done, right? So, which is important, especially when you've got new twins in the house and a 2.5-year-old already. Hey, Bridget, would you check my salmon temp for me? That would be awesome. And our final segment with Grace Lin. I'm sad to see this go because I love this book.
It's been so wonderful to have this recurring segment.
Her book is called Chinese Menu, The History, Myths, and Legends Behind Your Favorite Foods. And today we're going to wrap up with dessert. But the caveat is there really dessert in a Chinese restaurant? Or is that just something that Western culture wants to put
added
there?
On? Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And Becky has worked diligently on some questions for the Food for Thought Tasty Trivia Quiz, brought to you by Rub with Love Spice Rub. All right. Let's talk about your taste of the week, Loretta Douglas. By the way, Loretta is our legal counsel. She went on to become a lawyer and realized the restaurant business is much more fun.
Can't get away. Just roped back in.
Much more fun.
Yes.
On her own accord, by the way. It's not something you have to join the company.
No, it's been great.
Yeah.
All right, taste of the week. So not to toot my own horn, but I made a pot roast last night.
It was delicious.
It was delicious. And
although I will say a little sweet for me.
A little sweet. It was a lot of onion, but what I wanted to say was less than it being delicious was I realized I think it's the first time I've ever made pot roast.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's because
Is that a parental issue?
Maybe. I mean, it's your
black
failing.
Mark on my record. Yeah.
But I think it's because I see like a 3 or 4 pound chuck roast in the grocery store and I feel intimidated by cooking that much meat. And I know people say like, you just put it in the oven, you leave it forever. It comes out, it's pot roast, it's fine. But for me, I still just felt like I don't know what to do with that cut of meat, or I worry that I'll cook it for 3 hours and it'll still be, chewy or not tender or fall apart. All the things that you don't want your pot roast to be. So,
and going back to that 3 or 4 pound thing, when you're just a husband and wife, it's not something you think that's like way too much, right?
Exactly.
Or that, you go out to eat a lot, you order in a lot. So the idea of having leftovers, which is something I think about all the time, I'd make soup out of that extra pot roast in a heartbeat. That's not really in your lexicon.
Yeah, it's not in our wheelhouse in the same way. Both my husband and I work for food companies. We get lunch at work. We're not packed, things like that. So, more than it being the taste, which I think it was good. There's certainly things I would tweak and do differently next time. But it was more, I feel proud that I took it on and made it myself. And it was edible.
And I did the dishes.
And you did all the dishes, which is the best part.
I always say that when I die, they're the thing that Jackie and Loretta are going to miss the most.
The dishwasher.
The dishwashing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, my taste of the week goes with it.
Okay.
You made a bread last night that was kind of an odd texture, but in my mind, the way I used it at the table and loved it was like a dumpling bread. It was sticky like a dumpling, and it took on gravy beautifully. And so I just took the broth that was on your pot roast and poured it over my slice of dumpling bread, which
was a beer bread, and was 5 ingredients. It was flour, baking soda, salt, a can of beer, and honey. And then you put butter over top and bake it. But it does have that almost bread dumpling, steamed bread dumpling type quality on the inside.
Yeah. So it was, I thought it oddly, I don't think intentionally, worked really well with the pot roast and the drippings, because you just poured them right on top of this fluffy, sticky bread. And it really felt almost like an Eastern European dumpling texture.
I hadn't thought about it. It kind of makes me like it more.
The other thing I loved about it was Hercules, her older son, 2.5 years old, was not willing to eat dinner last night. And so in order to entice him to try everything, they said, well, this bread has beer in it.
We're great parents.
Hello. And then his eyes perked up. He said, beer? And so then he was willing to try the bread.
Mom of the year over here, he thinks that every carbonated beverage is a beer. And so he will walk into restaurants and say, can I have a beer, please? And order them. I'm just like, oh my God, eventually I'm going to have to tell him the difference. But
all right. Yeah, that was interesting to see that go down. And I was thinking about calling Child Protective Service. But then I was present, and I was thinking that's probably not a good thing either. So anyway, we're celebrating the final week of National Seafood Month with Frances Burch of Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association and Sam Mitchell of Sam's Salmon Cakes. And I've got some Bristol Bay sockeye in the oven as we speak. So come back for that, and we're going to spread it out through our audience and have a good time on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
Into my mic.
We have that shirt.
Yeah, I have that shirt.
And you had the sticker on your old car.
No.
If you want to stand, we'll have to get a taller mic, or you can sit down. But you have to be right up to it like this. You hear the difference? Yeah.
I'll sit.
Sounds much better on the radio if you're up.
You've been on before.
Last year, yeah.
It was a few years ago. It was COVID time.
Wow, that's a big piece of fish. What did we temp that at? Was it 140? So this got overcooked a bit. Yeah. I'm surprised it went that fast, because the oven was not hot when I put it in. Yep.
I think the professionals use them way more than home cooks in some ways.
I like to pull a fillet of fish. I would temp that at 120 in the middle. And as it rests, it'll go to 125, and you'll still end up with a touch of French butter. Not rare, not a meat.
I think it's good. Mine.
If I want rare, I like to go to a sushi bar. So before we get rolling, is somebody going to tackle what? We only have we have nine minutes. So you want to just talk about the Bristol Bay? Got to make sure I'm talking to the right person here. You want to talk about the Development Association, and then you're going to talk about salmon?
I think she should talk
Flip
about
I'll
flop.
talk about the organization, and Sam can talk about maybe how the season went and
Okay,
his business.
that's right, salmon.
sales, not cakes.
Oh, really?
Not salmon cakes, no.
Salmon sales. I'm sorry.
Right.
Our producer really messed up that time. She's new, so we like to give her a hard time.
Nowhere. You just.
Did I say the wrong thing? I did say the wrong thing. Our host really messed up that time. And I have no excuse. All right, I'm sick of this thing. Welcome back to the Hot Stove Society show on Cairo Radio. I'm Tom Douglas. Loretta Douglas is sitting in for Chef Terry
Thanks
till
for
he
having me
comes back
back.
into the kitchen. Absolutely. Loretta, this is the wrap-up of the Pacific Northwest Seafood 101 campaign and represents fishermen to advance the quality and market success of Bristol Bay salmon, which is very exciting.
We have Frances and Sam joining us
We have-
in the studio today.
We do. Sam's sitting right in front of you. So, Frances, let's start with you. Let's talk about the Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association and what your role is there and what the idea is to do with it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm a lifelong fisherman and also have a role as with the Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association. And we are a fisherman-funded organization with our mission is to increase the value of Bristol Bay salmon. So a lot of that is marketing our brand. You see it called out as Bristol Bay sockeye in grocery stores. That's a big push.
In
for what we're
restaurants.
doing. In restaurants, absolutely. We have Bristol Bay Salmon Week coming up, where over 30 restaurants, many of yours, are participating and featuring Bristol Bay sockeye on their menus. And then, in addition to our marketing, we're working with fishermen to keep our quality high and working to benefit the fleet.
That's what I appreciate most because in my world, I'm always talking about, sometimes frozen is better than fresh because it's so quick into the ice water and then processed. And so for me, that frozen, if I'm going to make that argument, it has to be pristine. And it is almost always when it comes in, we can see right away when it's pristine, when it's not. And I would say 99.9% of the time, it's just that.
Yeah, fishermen, we are really proud of what we catch.
Yeah.
And, it's a seasonal salmon run. It's totally natural. And the salmon show up in June and July. So getting it flash frozen is, the best way we can serve and eat and enjoy that fish all year.
And so then are you levied? Is there a little it's almost like a tax levied on each pound of the fish so that you can afford you, for example, out there marketing the product?
Yep. Yeah. So the fleet voted many years ago now, but they voted to pay a 1% tax on their harvest. So fishermen pay into that. And the goal of the organization is to boost our brand so that fishermen are making that money back.
Right. And that happens throughout the industry, right? There's a beef council, pork council, chicken council. Everyone kind of does this in order to market their product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, we go to restaurants or we go to grocery stores, and as consumers, we don't always realize all the work and strategy that it goes to getting things on shelves or on menus.
Right.
So that's a part of where we are.
It's been incredible up there, Loretta. We've worked hard over the last 15 years to try and stop a Bristol Bay pebble mine. So far, we're in a pause mode on that. I never trust that it's going to last forever, so it's a constant battle. But it's so great to see the harvest reflecting some of the conservation efforts, too. It's just been an amazing harvest up there.
Yeah, absolutely. 2022 was an absolute record harvest, more fish than has returned, since we've been counting in modern times. And this year was somewhat down from that, but it was still a really strong harvest historically. Right. And something a lot of people don't know about Bristol Bay is there's no hatcheries there. A lot of Alaska salmon do rely on hatcheries, even though they're wild fish. And so the Bristol Bay ecosystem is really pristine and incredible. And the risk of that mine is devastating.
And what's the risk with the water temperatures? We've been watching what's happening to crab what's the risk with the water temperatures changing too?
Yeah, I think climate will affect all seafood in different ways, and we're not quite sure how. But where we're harvesting fish is in the estuaries where the salt water is becoming the river mouths, and
Right.
so the fish do go through kind of a process of adjusting to the warmer temperatures of the fresh water. So I know sometimes that the biologists say that will dictate the run timing. Sometimes
Right.
they're waiting for a certain temperature in the water.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Bristol Bay sockeye. I serve it at all my restaurants. We're going to be part of Sockeye Week, Bristol Bay Sockeye Week coming up. It is, I love how lean it is in a funny way compared to King. It's because what happens then, because it's leaner, it has better mouth texture to me. It doesn't get mushy like a fatty King or certainly like a farm salmon does. So that's one of the things I love about it. Sam's here. Let's talk about your product, Sam. You're in Sam's Salmon Sales. And so what do you do?
Well, the same thing. I've been a fisherman for a long time now in Bristol Bay, and a few years ago I started direct marketing Bristol Bay sockeye in the Seattle area. So, farmers markets, and a few grocery stores and restaurants. But it's something that brings me a lot of pride. Kind of what Frances was talking about. This is something that we're really proud of harvesting, and then the second part of that, to be able to provide it to individual people who I've developed a relationship with is really fulfilling. It's a really cool thing, and it all does tie back to what Frances was talking about with the totally natural life cycle of the salmon in Bristol Bay. It feels like a unique, special thing that I'm providing, and I take a lot of pride in it.
Loretta, I think of you as being someone who would be a direct salmon salesperson. And have you ever tried that from one of the outfits, or somebody like Sam who's selling direct?
We go to our local farmers market every week, so I buy at the farmers market every week. I also am lucky to live by Wilde Salmon Fish Market, so I buy there almost every week as well during the season. So yeah, it's totally. I love to look for those purveyors in the market. It feels better to me, and often I think the product looks better. So.
Totally. Yeah. No,
Lovely.
that's Ballard Market. I'm there the Ballard Farmers Market. I'm there every week. And there can be a challenge with doing grocery shopping at farmers markets because of the difference in price point. But that's the what you're getting is a much closer relationship
you're getting
with
what
your
you pay
food.
for
And
in that instance,
that's
food and fishermen, I think, in cultivating that understanding of where your food is coming from, I think is really important as well.
Yeah, totally. It's it adds a lot of meaning to the experience for me anyways.
So you hang out at the farmers markets too?
Yeah, in years past I have been there all the time, and this year I had people staffing the booths for me. So I'm still there, from time to time, but It's not every time that I'm there.
How do you explain to people why it's important to buy the wild fish or buy Bristol Bay salmon? I mean, I always say, like, for Copper River, to me, Copper River saved the salmon industry because it gave more value to these wild fish by creating a real economy around it and a real premium, not unlike what Wagyu does for beef or Kubota does for pork or things like that. So how do you explain the difference between farm fish and a wild Bristol Bay sockeye to your customer?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to start out, that is one thing that, is great. A change that is really good in Bristol Bay is that the pack has changed, so previously so much of it went in cans, and that's not the case anymore. And the RSDA has a lot of impact there. But the Bristol Bay sales pitch can be kind of a funny thing because when you're at the farmers market booth, you only get 30 seconds of people's attention, and I can tend to ramble about it because I like it. I like talking about it. But the totally wild life cycle is a big thing that I always mention. The fact that the health of fisheries is written into the Alaskan state constitution. So as a baseline, if you're looking for something that you can feel good about buying, Alaskan seafood's a good way to go. And the quality changes that have happened, that's a big thing that people
That's a huge thing for
they're
me,
receptive.
yeah.
And people understand that. It's not like I'm explaining something that they've never heard before usually. So
Something else that I think maybe not everyone realizes, but all Bristol Bay salmon is caught on small boats. So it's all family businesses, fishermen with 3 to 4 crew on board. So every Bristol Bay salmon supports a fishing family and small business.
It is kind of a funny thing though, like with you're talking about water temperature and Bristol Bay being so healthy, where you almost do confront this idea where people just assume that every fishery is, getting worse and worse and worse. And
Right.
that's true in a lot of cases, but for Bristol Bay, it's kind of like, you're like, no, actually
It's getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
And so many of those small boats are actually coming out of Seattle too, which is very important to our local economy. If you go over to Fisherman's Terminal, you'll see a lot of the boats that are up there doing the fishing. So,
Yes.
thank you both for coming, Frances Burch and Sam Mitchell. We appreciate you. Sam, quick plug on how people can buy from you direct.
Yeah, so best way, Ballard Farmers Market every week, Capitol Hill Farmers Market, I'm there year round, and then just on my website, samsalmon.com.
So you do mail order too.
We ship, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
samsalmon.com. Okay.
That's it.
All right, perfect. Up next, Charlotte Douglas is here from Rose 7 Seed Company about the exciting new garlic, which was supposed to go on our salmon. I sauteed it, and we forgot to put it out with it. So we'll send it out separately. On Cairo Radio, it's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
Thanks.
You bet.
Is it okay to go around?
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. That was great.
Thank you. It's good fun.
Is that the last one?
That's the last one.
Oh.
Perfect.
We doing a video today?
We are.
Okay, good.
And I thought we just talked about your favorite way for salmon.
With garlic.
So that had our veggie rub on. That'll garlic rub.
I got it. I like it right.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was a little overcooked.
Yeah, it's just a little. What happens when you're trying to do this and do that at the same time? Okay.
A different way?
And I'm ready whenever you are.
Hi, everybody. You know my famous salmon rub, number one selling salmon rub called salmon rub, I think. But that's not the way you need it all the time. Another one of my favorite ways to cook salmon is to take a little steamer basket, and I put a plate with a nice well in it, salmon in there, with a little chili sausage, garlic, a little green onion for color, add a butter on top. What's lovely about that is that the salmon cooks it. Butter. And then pull it out, the salmon's 100%. Put it over steamed rice, and that whole sauce right out of your steamed salmon. So lots of ways to cook salmon. Don't be shy. Try everything.
Awesome. Thanks.
I get a little more hot water.
That was good. I do.
Yeah.
I just tasted it.
Mhm.
Because they were all.
Does everyone have hot coffee that wants it? Tea? Just a little heads up, we have 3 Zooms today, which is very unusual. Normally we only have 1 per show. So just in case you're wondering, it's not real typical, but there are 3 people on Zoom today. All right.
Hi, Charlotte.
She's on mute. There we go.
You ever want to taste of the garlic, please? Reheating it up real quick. Just a teaspoon. That was supposed to go on the salmon. I forgot to tell you.
It was your fault.
I said. I forgot to tell you. You want me to fall on a sword?
I liked your note. Isn't it nice?
Wow.
I always
Oh, well, he does. Favorite place.
All right, there you go, Bridget. They're all yours.
And Tom, did you want to?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Charlotte, let's get off mute. Are you ready to go?
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Charlotte.
Hello.
Hi, Charlotte.
Can you see our audience, Charlotte?
I can't
it's
see them, but
pointing
I
at
see
you.
you. I see
Facing
some
this way.
sauteed garlic happening. It's exciting.
Oh, yeah, here's some more. So, Charlotte, before I get in the middle of this, how much of this, can I say, of this stalk of garlic can a consumer use? Like I just made buttered garlics for the salmon.
Charlize.
Yeah.
Garlic.
We're gonna
Um,
rename
That's your
you
new name,
Charlotte.
How much of this stalk would you say is usable? Can I take it all the way to the end? Just peel like the dry outers and take it to the end? And have it be tender?
So that's it's a little bit over where we usually harvest it. It's a little wider than we usually harvest it, but one of the appeals is that the tops are tender and delicious. So we
Right.
like to cook the whole thing. Yeah.
So that one's
exactly.
more typical.
Just like that. It's beautiful.
Okay. And I can just take this dead outer leaf off and now I can use the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get frustrated. They buy a whole leek and it's only half usable.
No, exactly.
All right, here we go. Ready?
Ready? Ready?
All right, welcome back to the Hot Stove Society Kitchens here in downtown Seattle. If you need a landmark for us, we're right there at 4th and Virginia at the Hotel Andra. The lovely, just pull right up. Even let them park your car if you want, I guess. Or there's a parking lot right there, right down the street. Your mother for years has, and I have worked for years with the Row 7, and her good buddy Dev Patel used to be our head farmer
Our
out at
manager,
Prosser
yeah.
Farm. Our manager used to be a chef with us before that, and he is now working with Row 7 directly.
Yep.
And I know for years Jackie would do seed trials with Row 7, and then I'd get all the produce at the restaurants, and then we'd play around with it, see how it cooked up.
All different kinds of products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've invited Charlotte Douglas to join us from Row 7. It's a seed company that you can just go online and buy seeds from, right? It's just as
Yeah,
simple as that.
founded by very famous Dan Barber
Mhm.
in upstate New York, I believe. Right?
And all
They're
organic.
all organic.
Yeah.
And it's a reimagine of food from seed to table. So welcome to the show, Charlotte.
Thank you for having me. I wish I were there tasting in person with you all, but I'm happy to be here virtually.
All right, maybe next time. Tell us about this garlic, and it's essentially just a hybrid of garlic and leek, but it's probably more than that even.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is exactly what the name implies. It's a marriage of a leek and a garlic. And it was developed for over a decade by a plant breeder out in the Netherlands who was trying to express the best of both vegetables. So you get the sort of sweet onion flavor of the leeks with the sort of savory kick of the garlic.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a baby leek as you saw. It has those tender green tops so you can cook and eat the whole thing.
Yeah, it's harvested about half or a third the size of a normal leek. And then unlike a typical leek where I might trim the tops off, maybe the top 4 or 5 inches and put it into stock, this you can cut up just like the white bottom, and it's tender and sauteed. Right now, we just sauteed it up for our guest here in the studio, but so you can use the whole thing in much less waste, which I think is part of reimagining seeds. Is that true?
Absolutely. I think this idea of how can we breed for flavor in the whole plant is really exciting and kind of cut down on waste, but also kind of utilize the parts of the plants that are often undervalued.
Right. Like I think your tagline is from root to flower.
Exactly.
So Chef Dan Barber is a chef just like myself. He's been doing this for quite a long time. Tell us about your involvement and how you go about introducing a new vegetable into the marketplace.
Yeah. So prior to starting Row 7 with Dan, I was working at Blue Hill, and this new conversation between plant breeders and chefs and farmers, it started for us back in 2010 when we met a plant breeder named Michael Mazurek. And as we had these conversations with plant breeders, we kept hearing the same thing, which is that plant breeders have access to all of this diversity by crop, and they have the capacity to select for so many traits that we care about, like flavor and nutrition and unique parts of the plant. But unfortunately, so many of them are being asked to kind of select for commodity systems and commodity traits. So they're being asked to make improvements in a really rigid system. So this opportunity to bring chefs and farmers and now eaters into that process was really the hope of, prioritizing flavor, prioritizing innovation, and really bringing more diversity into our food system.
We've been lucky in our group, I think, to be both seed testers through Prosser Farm, but also kind of restaurant testers, where we get early access to some of these products and get to play with them. I know the garlic is on a couple menus now at Lola, but how long is that process? You said this one is 10 years, but once you have a product, what's the process from getting it into stores, into people's homes, into restaurants around the country? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, you absolutely have been co-conspirators in this since we started. And we have this incredible trial network of chefs and farmers who are providing feedback from around the country in the field and kitchen. That is a huge opportunity for us to learn, and it really dictates what makes it into our catalog and what makes it into kind of this new branded produce arm of our business. So we do extensive trialing on our own research farm in New York and in the kitchen with Dan and our culinary team. But then the great joy of this is, how do you bring more stakeholders into that process? And again, kind of share seeds and share product with chefs and farmers to see how it's coming to life in different regions.
And there's a lot of things to think about. Like, I know Jackie, my wife, your mother, over in Prosser, has a very different environment than, say, somebody down in Central Valley of California.
Or Hudson Valley, New York.
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of the deal, is you have to have farmers in every region doing the same kind of technical process to make sure that this product grows well wherever you want it to be growing well, right? So I know Jackie and Deb went up to the Skagit Valley, and I think this is really the next step that's happening right now, which is we're getting the first kind of commercial quantity of garlic into our restaurants. How do we handle it? How do customers respond to it? Because after 10 years of process, now the rubber meets the road, because if you guys don't like it out here, right, then it's not going to be good. What did you think of that garlic? Did it taste different than leeks to you? And did it have a little garlic in the background? So it did what it said it was going to do. Well, that's awesome. I know at our restaurants, we're trying it out at Lola on Blue North Alaska cod with a spicy hatch chili zug and scordia and Oregon hazelnuts. So there's a lot going on in that particular dish. And at Serious Pie, we have garlic on with zucchini and artichoke and a gorgonzola picante. So an older aged gorgonzola pizza. So I think it's when you're buying a new product like this, and I think Charlotte would agree, is that you try it plain, kind of see where it works in your taste area, and then put it on things that you would like. Like, I was supposed to put it on that salmon that you had, but it would have been delicious. Buttered leeks on the salmon would have been delicious, right? Because I put lemon in there and all that sort of thing. Charlotte, have you heard or had a favorite recipe come your way that you've used these garlics in?
I mean, that's what's incredible, is just to hear all of the diversity of ways it's being used. My mouth is watering just hearing the description you just shared. But what I love about it is that people aren't seeing it as a novelty or this boutique ingredient, but really this really functional way that can be interpreted through their own cuisine. So we tried a mole that was made from it, a kimchi. My daughters like saute it with eggs in the morning. So there are so many ways to interpret it, which is part of the joy.
And Charlotte, we want to congratulate you. Earlier this week, Sweet Garlic won an article from Time as one of the best inventions of 2023. How's that feel?
Yeah, that was probably the high point of our year so far, and definitely beyond our expectations for an allium. But it sort of speaks to what's possible when you have this kind of collaboration behind new ingredients coming into the food system. So we're really thrilled.
And I go back to the point that it's 100%, almost 100% usable outside of the root structure. It's almost 100% usable, which is 50% more usable than a leek that you're paying $3 or $4 for in the grocery store. How will people, if they want to grow this in their own backyard, how do people get the seed?
We will have seeds available in January on our website, and then hopefully we'll have also the produce coming your way next fall. So we'll have that to look forward to. Can't wait to be in your neighborhood.
And then I know a couple years back we got, I think it was called Honey Crunch Squash. Was a hybrid from Rose 7. Is that right?
Honey Patch. Yep. Mm-hmm. The mini butternut.
Honey Patch. Yeah. What can we expect in the future? What are some secrets that you're working on?
That you can
great
tell us.
question. I will give them away to you. We have I was just tasting some sweet potatoes yesterday, actually, which is a crop we've been working on. So would love to send you some to trial in the kitchen.
Jackie was harvesting those sweet potatoes over at our farm, and it was like a wrestling match.
Yeah.
Watching her in the beds trying to get the sweet potatoes out of the ground, just working up a
and
sweat.
some of them came out the size of footballs. I think we left it a little long there this year, I think. But.
Well, Charlotte, congratulations to you and your team, and to Jackie for her efforts. I will say it's so nice, the thought that we're breeding fruit and produce instead of how to make a square tomato so that it packs better across the country, and instead making a tomato that actually tastes something, makes a great tomato sauce. It's really nice to have somebody focusing on this, and we're proud to be part of it.
Well, thank you so much for your partnership in that work. It's really been a thrill.
All right. That's Charlotte Douglas has been with us from Rose 7 Seed Company. And if your mom was here, she'd be able to say, yeah, you just go on this website and get it. But I think that's all you have to do, right?
Yep. That's all you have to do.
On their site, they have a whole seed catalog of all different varieties that they have bred.
And they have
improved,
recipes and beautiful inspiration on there too.
Good. All right. Up next, it's Charlie's Produce, Cultivating Fresh. We're going to be taking a look with Jason Farah from Washington Fruit Growers and Doug Gibson from Mount Adams Fruit. I see these trucks over in Prosser all the time, these huge fruit trucks. And then I see Charlie's just bringing them all back to Seattle and around the country.
Right to our doors.
So, yeah, it's super fun. And we've been loving our partnership with Charlie's Produce. And so thank you for that. You're listening to the Hot Stove Radio Show on Cairo Radio. It's 97.3 FM. Felt like I was a little short there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Was that a little pun, Ken? You're going to roll? Yeah.
Unlike me, that you're texting like.
Wow, just throwing you under the bus like that. Thank you. Stay well or stay better. Yeah. I'm an interlocker on my golf grip, so it's going to be hard to get this baby back. It's broke here, and then 20 stitches here. Stupidity is painful. All right. Certainly will.
Bye, Ted.
But he seriously was the most organized guest. Super helpful. Are they? Yes. Oh, and they, yeah.
It is. Yep. Half garlic, half leek. Yeah. The tagline of the bread book. So you read that in there. Oh, tired today.
Did Rose sleep?
With Ben, I mean, he woke up probably an hour and a half or so after he went to bed, and then Ben just. The baby slept though till 6:30. We fed him again, kind of like without waking them up at like 10:30. I got the better end of the
Yeah, you
stick
did.
last night. There we go. So the link just went through.
Let's turn on.
All right. Yay.
Hey, there they are. You got your volume up and your camera on.
Volume up, camera on. We can hear
I
you.
see a couple of beautiful men right there. Way to go.
There we go. So still 10 to 15 minutes away. Are we
Nope.
doing this right now?
We're gonna get going in a minute here. Thank you for your patience, guys.
We're back in the kitchen on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society show. Thank you for joining us. We've got Jason Funfara and Doug Gibson. Jason is the account manager with Washington Fruit Growers, and Doug is the CEO of Mount Adams Fruit. And they're going to talk about Charlie's and cultivating fresh, as we do every week, as with our partnership with Charlie's, and see what's going on over there in the amazing apple crop. When I was over at my farm in Prosser last week, the drive between Yakima and Prosser is 45 miles, we'll say. 14 fully loaded apple trucks went by
Wow.
semis, which are double long. You know, they have the regular semi and the trailer behind it, just loaded
Wow.
to the gills. So
Can
it
you
must
smell anything?
you can't with the apples. You
Okay.
can. I always love to hop in behind the hop trucks
Hops.
with the bales of hops, and you just follow them. You smell hops all the way through the valley. But
Lovely.
But
Better
it's-
than driving through the aroma of Sunnyside.
well, there are dairy farms there too. Yes, so you have to hold your nose in some areas and let it go in others. So welcome, gents, to the Hot Stove Society kitchen.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Jason, let's start with you. Let's talk about what you do in your growing area and what it is that you're looking forward to this fall.
Well, I'm an advocate of growers. I don't grow myself, but Washington Fruit Growers is the company I work for, and I sell apples happily to Charlie's Produce, something I've done for many, many years. Very good customer, and also a big advocate of fruit across the Northwest and the West Coast. But here we are in harvest. We're 80+% picked on apples. Most of the pears are off the trees now. And I heard you talk about those apples. They were probably coming from CA storage from one location to the next, or right from the field to a CA or a packing line. And it's pretty exciting to see that. We see that all over the place around our neck of the woods.
Oh, indeed. I do an evening spot for King 5 TV every week or so, and I did apples this week with the new crop harvest. And it's always fun to, when we drive through the valley, you see piles of fruit trees that have been pulled out, and then you see tons of acreage with brand new sprouts of fruit trees coming up, little twigs. And it's interesting to me how the industry decides what's the next hot variety. How do you figure that out, and how do you promote it?
Well, I'll let Doug handle that question. He's a grower, and he's making those decisions all the time. But definitely part of it is chasing the demand of consumers and, of course, customers, and what our retail partners want and our wholesale partners want, like Charlie's Produce. But Doug might have a really good answer to that question also.
Well, there's no real silver bullet on that. These new varieties take several years. As you can imagine, you only harvest something once every year, and so a new variety might take 20 years. And we have WSU and several other universities working on it, especially, as well as private individuals working on different varieties. So it's really the consumer drives it. So that's the consumer. There's a lot of taste testing and development that happens, and then eventually something kind of hits that inertia, and multiple sales desks and growers get enough of it so that you start seeing it in grocery stores everywhere.
What's the thing that you're most excited about that you're growing right now?
Well, I'd say maybe Cosmic Crisp right now is one of our newest ones. So that's specific to Washington State. It can only be grown in Washington State. Cosmic Crisp has a flavor very similar to a Honey Crisp. It's also available year round. It stores very well, and so it's a very grower-friendly crop, and it's gaining a lot of excitement with our customer base.
They're my favorite. They're what I always pick out
Is that
when
what
I'm
you
at
pick
the store.
out?
Yep.
When we tested them, man, they were definitely the crunchiest of all of them. And I wouldn't necessarily argue for it to be a baking apple because it's hard to break them down.
Yeah. They're the
but
perfect snack apple.
the new apple that I liked, which worked for baking and for eating also, was the opal. Do you have any opals?
We don't grow opals. One of our partners actually packs some organic opals. But again, I think just preference is great. Good to hear that you like Cosmic, and good to hear that you like other varieties. I think that's really what we're trying to do here is increase demand. We have a lot of apples that we need to constantly getting people to put in their baskets at the grocery stores, chefs to be putting in pies, and hopefully you can dedicate a portion of your menu to apples, pears, and certainly cherries in the summer months.
Well, let's jump over the pears then, because I think it's a fruit that's a little bit misunderstood, because typically when pears are a little bit crisp, people think they're not ripe, which isn't necessarily the case. And I just don't think they use them as much as they do apples. So I love a good pear.
Well, we love that. So, kind of the whole pear category is to be divided into two different types of category. We have a summer pear, which is going to be your Bartlett and your Star Crimson. And those, as they ripen, will turn color a little bit. And those are really great between I'd say, end of August all the way through to early February. And then we have the winter pears, which is divided into the Anjos and the russet Bosque. And those are really good over the holidays, right? So the Bosque is a really great, I'm sure as you know, is a really great cooking pear. And the Anjos, if they're ripened really well in the right way, off the shelf, they don't come quite ripe. But as they ripen, it can be a really great pear for a salad or just eating slices of it. Then we have several other kind of more niche varieties that I think are really exciting. One is the camise, which is personally my favorite pear. It doesn't necessarily always look the best off the shelf. They scuff a little bit, but the flavor is just amazing.
Do you run
and
into
then we
that
have the
issue?
Star Crimson, Pharrell, and the Secco.
I love little Secco. What was your question?
I was just going to say, I was just wondering if you run into that issue with pears. I think that they can tend to look a little bit,
They bruise up a little.
more bruised or things like that than apples. Does that affect the buying power of it?
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, aesthetics is a key thing. The skin's not quite as hardy necessarily as an apple would be. But really, I do think that there's consumer understanding when you're buying pears on the shelf for an occasional blemish or aesthetic defect. We try hard, and we have the best technology on the packing lines to put near perfect fruit in the box and get it shipped. And I know Charlie's Produce would do the same thing with their handling and light touch when it comes to delivery. So you got to remember, we are growing fruit on trees and not creating widgets in factories. So occasionally there is a blemish or something, but I do think there's some understanding of that amongst buyers and consumers and people eating in restaurants, etc.
Yeah.
As there should be. There's nothing better than a perfect pear.
Perfect
in my mind.
pear,
Yeah.
exactly. And there's so many displays out there right now. If you go to Met Market or places like that, Charlie's is, I think it's Charlie's, or maybe it's Washington Fruit. It's having a competition for best pear display.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we are doing a promotion through Charlie's Produce. Charlie's is using some display bins, and they're actively promoting pears, which is fantastic. So I think we can go across that market and other retailers that Charlie's is distributing to and see a lot of our pears, possibly some others. But again, I think we're just big advocates of pear consumption, not only in the Northwest and the Seattle area, but across the country. So that's fantastic to hear that.
We've been talking with Jason Funfara and Doug Gibson. Doug is of Adams Fruit, and Jason is with the account manager for Washington Fruit Growers. I will say my little trick is to, in the produce, I look for the produce guy to be working the pear counter. And as he's pulling kind of the older bruised pears off, I just kind of follow him because those are going to go either into the compost bin or somewhere else. And I buy those pears because those are the ones that are in the perfect shape.
They're ready.
For me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right. Up next, it's Shortcut or Scratch on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
Saw Rose is here.
So,
Sorry, Rose. We're right jumping into a segment.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Probably is not doesn't look bad.
Okay.
Hey, Becky. We if they prefer, we could go with their segment first, and then just skip. Well, I'm saying if she doesn't, if she wants to stay for trivia, then they have to stay for the full hour. Because I don't like to take that out of segment. But if she doesn't want to stay for that, we can just do her segment and then. Okay. All right. All right. No problem. All right, we're back in the kitchen. It's the Hot Stove Society. Everyone's chowing down on breakfast this morning. We're here in downtown Seattle. How's breakfast? Yeah, thumbs up. All right. Chef Brigitte would be very proud to see that. You guys all love her Spanish tortilla, her ruby chard, and the little chorizo sausages. Yummy. So luscious. Okay, Loretta, this is our segment. We got another hour to go, right?
Yep.
We're going to have Grace Lin's final segment. You know, I've never done a 7-part segment before. We got Rose Wilde here, Red and Roses. It's a beautiful book. If you haven't seen it, it's go online, check out the pictures, and buy one. And then, of course, we're going to finish the show up with food for thought, rub with love, tasty trivia, something like that.
Something like that.
First, we're going to jump into scratch or
shortcut or scratch.
Shortcut or scratch, because sometimes I feel like when you go to the grocery store, it's different than when I go to the grocery store.
Absolutely. I think we look for different things and
right. You look for things that are partially done. I look for just scratch ingredients.
Yes.
Generally. And you have 3 kids under 3. I have a daughter who's 33.
Yes.
With 3 kids under 3.
With 3
on
kids
the way
under
to 34. Anyway, so let's talk about that. What is last week? What did we talk about?
We talked about some pre-prepared sauces, specifically those omsom.
Oh, the omsom
sauces last week. I want to talk about sous vide meats this week.
Okay.
Because this is something that I don't really think of you buying and is something that I buy all the time.
Right.
It started for me. If you have a Costco, they have a carnitas in the refrigerated section. And it's essentially a pre-cooked pork butt.
Yeah.
It's pre-chunked for you and you reheat it. And they tell you to kind of reheat it, I think even in the plastic bag.
No way.
So this is where I go with these things. That their carnitas
So you
are
follow
really
the
good.
directions exactly.
I do not.
Okay.
And I think that is the key to buying some of these pre-prepared meat
Mhm.
products for me. So the carnitas I found, like I add some fat, even though there's a good amount in there. I add orange juice. I season it up with a little bit of cumin or the rub with a pork rub myself, just kind of zhuzh it up a little bit. But in my mind, like you would have bought that pork butt and taken it from the start. And for me, I can get carnitas tacos on the table in 30 minutes.
30
you
minutes,
know?
yeah.
And are you doing this just in a pan, Loretta, or are you
I do it in the pan. You can do it on the stove or in the oven.
Dutch oven?
It crisps up really, really
It comes with a lot of fat.
It comes with
nice.
a lot of fat in it. But it opened my mind to some of the other ones that I maybe wouldn't have tried previously because I enjoyed that carnitas one. So now I'll buy, I think Kevin's is the brand name. They are in a lot of stores.
Mhm.
Those started as like a paleo meat product, but essentially it's a packet of a sous vide chicken or beef, and you heat it up. And I was trying to think about like what I like about these, and I think a lot of times it's that they come with a sauce. They're almost like a meal maker in themselves, and all I have to do is come up with a side or a salad.
Buy
or
a jar of
something like that.
salsa, make some rice.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go back to that and let's just stay on the carnitas, because I think there's a lot of ideas of what do you expect from
Mhm.
this dish, right? We just said there's a lot of fat in there, which some people would say, well, why do I want that? But in carnitas, you kind of use that fat to crispen up your pork,
Yeah.
your shredded pork, right?
Yeah.
So it's important. If there wasn't any fat left in that bag, you would have to add bacon fat or something to get to what your expected end product would
Yeah.
be, right?
And I think one of the best things about these, or what I would tell people if anybody wants my advice, is don't necessarily look at the cooking instructions that come on the package. There is use your kind of cooking intuition. For me, there's no point in carnitas if they're not crispy and crunchy and get those little end bits that are delicious. And so if you're going to heat those up in the microwave or in the bag they come in, you're just never going to get that. So
You're going to have much more like a pulled pork.
exactly.
Yeah.
So think about how you can take those prepared pieces to the next level that way.
I think we're not as far apart maybe as you think. I love the buying that little Costco stuff just to try it out, because I've always dreamed of having a hit product on the shelves of Costco. And so when I see something like the carnitas, or I see the Maya Kamal stuff or Sakura stuff, I buy it just to see how good it is or not good it is.
Yeah.
I would say 75% of the time, I think the product's pretty darn tasty. Becky, you probably shop at Costco once in a while. You have kids, and
Yeah, I love
Um,
Costco.
have you had a good experience with those?
Well, let's see, meats. I usually just go there for the fish, honestly.
Just for the fish.
the crab. I always get
Yeah.
a crab
Uh-huh.
thing, and the halibut's wonderful, and
Yeah.
if the salmon's fresh,
Okay.
I love that.
So going back to this, shortcut or scratch.
Mhm.
If I were to do the carnitas personally, and this is my beef with some of the food trucks that are around and stuff, just because it's out of a bus or a trailer or a food truck doesn't make it good.
Yes.
Right. And so to me, a high quality pork butt, I would put it on the charcoal grill, which is not typically how a carnitas is done.
Pork butt's done. Yeah.
But I like that extra flavor. And then I would put it in a cast iron pan once it was all chopped. I used the bone-in, fat-in pork butt. So
Okay.
once it's all chopped, you mix that fat in with all the rest of the pork. I put it in a cast iron pan to then crispen it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is how I get to where I want to go.
Okay.
So, but we're talking about like a 7 or 8 pound pork butt on a charcoal grill.
You're
It's a
talking about
3-hour
many-hour
project.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours. You rub it, but it's 3 hours left unattended.
Okay.
I mean, it literally is the time it takes to rub it and put it on the grill. And now you can walk away for literally 3 hours if you have a nice dampered grill that you can control the temperature. So, but here's the difference. I'm now going to go inside and mix together some masa and make tortillas.
Right.
Right. And because that's all part of it for me. I'm going to make a beautiful tomatillo cocktail, tomatillo salsa roasted with onions and garlic. And
Mom's gonna make margaritas and
mom's
put
gonna-
them in
yeah,
the
make
fridge.
blood orange margaritas.
When are we
And
doing
so
this?
to me, that's the fun,
Yeah.
right? And so you're trying to feed a family. I'm trying to have fun.
Yeah.
While cooking, and so that's really kind of the difference
hmm
of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have
And
three
both
under
are
three.
delicious
And both are delicious. I think
in a
that's
different way. And honestly, your pork butt is probably more delicious. I would hope that it would be than something out of the Costco refrigerator case. If it's not, no offense, you're doing something wrong. But for a Wednesday night for 30 minutes, taco party Tuesday. Sorry, I should say Taco Tuesday party.
Right.
For me, that's a shortcut that I'm happy to take.
And I think it's perfectly reasonable. And like I said, Costco's a pretty good purveyor of product. They don't just put something on the shelf that they don't believe in.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
that's one example of many, many things. I think the lesson for me is get a brown on it, because most of them come with no brown. Add some fat and then taste it before you put it out, and add the seasonings that you might have normally added for your 3-hour pork butt on the grill. Add them in there as you're reheating it to zhuzh it up a bit.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
All right. When we come back, it's part 7 and the final part of our series with Grace Lin's book, Chinese Menu, the history, myths, and legends behind your favorite foods. On Cairo Radio, it's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
That was good. I didn't know where sous vide was going to go. I was thinking, remember when it first came out?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we did this in the airlines.
Yeah.
What? And I didn't know. That was good. I like that.
Oh, yeah, that's the best part.
Ready? Just about 15, 30 seconds. How long is this segment?
9 minutes.
I know we're just over 8. Okay. No, it's good. We have about 45 seconds to open the video.
Okay.
And we're back. It's the Hot Stove Society Show in Cairo. It's time for segment 7 of the Grace Lin series. The book is called Chinese Menu, the history, myths, and legends behind your favorite American Chinese foods. And it's not really American Chinese food. The actual title is Chinese Menu. Grace is an American Chinese person, and kind of talks a little bit about that in our interview over the time. So far in the last 6 parts, we've talked tea, chopsticks, spring rolls, egg rolls, scallion, pancakes, condiments, soups, side dishes, a balanced Chinese dinner, rice as a main, and blah, blah, blah. Does dessert fit in? Let's find out when we finish up our series of Chinese Menu. All right, we're back here in the Hot Stove Kitchen, and we're wrapping up our delicious segment that we've been doing now for 7 weeks called The Chinese Menu. It's a new book by Grace Lin, the history, myths, and legends behind your favorite foods. And I would encourage anyone who's looking for a good read. These are some bedtime stories in here. There's some, you could read them to a kid who's interested in food, because they're so fun to hear where our imagery and our myths and legends of where Chinese food came from. That Grace has been kind enough to share many of her stories throughout the last 7 weeks. And if you haven't heard our previous segments, just go online and you can download them in a podcast, and you can catch up on the whole 7 weeks that we've been talking about. Okay, Grace, let's wrap this up with the history, myths, and legends of dessert in a Chinese restaurant, because I don't really see them very much, except maybe at dim sum where you get mango jello or coconut pudding or things of that nature.
Yeah, and that's because that's usually where the sweet foods are. The sweet foods were usually considered a snack food that it was that you ate separately. There really wasn't a dessert course in traditional Chinese cuisine. I think Chinese chefs just kind of took what they could and pushed it in there. And
I think so, because and what I read in your book also suggests that maybe some of the things that we consider dessert are more street food. You know, people have the sweets on the streets.
Exactly. Yeah, the sweets are kind of like a snack food usually.
Some of your favorites are?
One of my favorites is called Tong Hulu. I got it backwards, which is these sweet berries on a stick. They're like candied berries on a stick, the hawthorn berries. They're so beautiful. They look like red jewels. And then we eat them, especially on a cold day. It's delicious.
And what are the little kind of round doughy things that are on a skewer that have like a little caramel or something, syrup that they're soaked in? You see those?
And they're on a skewer?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
I threw a curveball at you, so I was just curious. For years, when I've gone to Chinese restaurants for dessert, it's somewhat traditional. I don't know if it's tradition or if they were just doing it on their own, but to get a little plate of fresh oranges, or certainly there were fortune cookies, but I think we all know that those weren't necessarily traditional.
No, the fortune cookie is definitely an Asian American invention, which we talked about the first episode, I think.
Right. And, down here at the Chuchong Noodle Factory here in downtown Seattle, they have an unfortunate cookie maker. They have a machine that makes broken fortune cookies that they sell by the 5-pound bag.
Oh, I thought they were going to have, instead of the fortune, I thought the fortunes inside told bad things to you.
No, but they
you gave them to your enemies.
They had this machine, right, that made fortune cookies, and then the broken ones they would put into a bag and sell as byproduct. But then they sold so many that they had to start making unfortunate cookies.
What a good idea. That's like the sawdust story of carpenters and sawmills. Like they started selling the sawdust and it made so much.
Exactly. Okay, so fresh oranges, because I love this tradition at the end of a meal of having a nice, juicy orange. And to me, it signifies care by the host or the hostess, and it signifies, in a funny way, wealth. And I don't know if that's true or not.
It is completely true. Oranges and tangerines signify wealth. Because when you say the word in Chinese, it sounds like the Chinese word for gold. So that's why you'll see around Lunar New Year, there's always displays of oranges and tangerines, because it's kind of like, it's symbolic. It's a way for them to call wealth and gold into their business at that time.
That's so fun. And I knew there had to be something behind it because, they glisten like jewels when they come out to the table. And sometimes they're actually, the peel is put into a certain angle, to make it exotic. Well, at Lunar New Year, adults tend to give each other oranges or tangerines because of that symbolism. Because what they're saying is when they give it to you, they're saying, I wish you wealth, I wish you prosperity. So at the end of a meal, when they give you that sliced orange, it's kind of like their wish to you, like, we wish you prosperity. Nice. It's we've been doing this for 7 weeks now and talked so much about the chapters in your book. Have I missed anything? Is there an important part of the Chinese menu or meal that we haven't really covered that you stress to your children or to people in general who are curious about the Chinese menu?
Oh, wow. Which part do I feel like we've covered so many of the things that I do stress. We talked about the dumplings, we talked about the noodles. I think the one thing that I do love to tell, especially my own daughter, which she found fascinating, was the ice cream in at Chinese restaurants. Because, we go to a Chinese restaurant, and usually the dessert part of the menu is very spare. And it's usually just like ice cream, chocolate or vanilla, right? And I remember it just seemed like this cheap kind of way to get out of giving a real dessert. So I always thought that until I made this book, Chinese Menu. And then I found out that ice cream actually might have roots to Chinese culture. Ice cream is definitely a European invention, but the Chinese had figured out how to freeze water into ice way before anybody else in the world. They figured out how to take saltpeter and make ice and make an ice maker. But using that ice maker, they learned how to freeze milk. And when Marco Polo came to China, he probably tasted this frozen milk. And when he went back to Italy, he probably took this memory of frozen milk with him and maybe that is what inspired gelato, which maybe legitimizes ice cream on the Chinese menu.
Isn't that funny? Well, it's been such a treat to kind of go through this. As somebody who's grown up going to American Chinese restaurants, I've only been to Hong Kong. I haven't been to mainland China at all, so I don't have a lot of real, I'm not berating Hong Kong food. I'm just saying I don't have much breadth of experience in the Asian food in that way. But gosh, I so enjoy it, and it's so fun to read your book and to kind of learn some of the history behind some of these dishes, and to understand some of the traditions that make why you eat what you eat important to people.
Yeah, and I hope that by reading this book, when you eat Chinese food, it makes it taste even better.
Exactly, and that you understand that immigrants, in a way, immigrants are really the basis for so much value in not only in our life but our food system and how we enjoy our life every day. So,
yeah, I mean, I like to say that that this Chinese food is actually, I mean, we call it Chinese food, but it's actually the taste of America, because this Chinese food is the taste of resilience, it's the taste of tenacity, it's the taste of surviving in a strange country, which is what America really is.
It really is. We are a group of immigrants. Grace Lin has been our guest. Chinese Menu is the book. I can't think of a better option for a Christmas present or something for your mom or for your family. So get out there and check it out. Thank you, Grace, for your graciousness, and we will see you again when you get here in Seattle.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Chinese Menu on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
I saved my worst for last.
And yeah, you bake it for like 5. I would have baked it a little longer. I wish that I'd kept going a little bit longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very,
Okay, Rose, it's all you.
yeah. Right here.
All right.
Do you want to swatch?
Oh, no, he can adjust it. Not yet.
Oh, what a cute cartoon.
When is your, are you done with Book Larder? Or are you going today?
Book
or?
Larder's tonight at
Tonight,
7 p.m.
okay.
Yeah.
Are there
so I
tickets?
hope everyone joins me.
So
There are tickets available?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Although people on the radio won't hear that. But
not on the
this-
radio,
for
but
these
people that watch live on YouTube will hear it. This is your YouTube camera right here.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. I'm Rose. You're not. Have you seen Carrie lately?
I have seen her mostly through Zoom, but I'm
Uh-huh.
going to see her in a couple days when
Yeah.
I head, well, I guess a couple weeks when I head to the East Coast for that leg of the tour.
Carrie was my promoter at William Morrow when she used to work for them, and then she went off on her own.
Yeah. Oh, great. A small world as always.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we all know each other in the end.
And your Instagram is T Rose. Is that how you say it?
Yeah. T
Okay.
Rose Wilde.
T Rose Wild.
And then explain to me, so I don't make a fool out of myself, why red bread?
Why red bread? Oh,
because it's not really explained on your site.
Hair color?
Oh, no. I mean, that's usually the go-to is people like, oh, redhead. And then she makes bread. I think I really love the alliteration of it.
Okay.
Like I'm a big, I love literature, and like alliteration is one of my favorite like literary techniques.
Uh-huh.
And I also, when naming my company, I wanted it to be something that felt accessible in any language. And I had also read this study about how the smell of bread coming out of the oven was a universal sort of dopamine and like serotonin releaser for people. And so it made you happy.
Okay.
And likewise, when you saw the color red, unlike other colors that get filtered through your memory, it goes straight to your like primal cortex.
Uh-huh.
And you have a visceral reaction. So I wanted something that felt like really essential. And so
Okay.
that's how I ended up with red bread.
There you go. Good. Because when I looked up red bread online, I got a bunch of red jelly roll pictures.
Oh, really? Yeah, sometimes the blue pond comes up, which is a really famous piece of art that's like literally a blue loaf of bread. So it definitely gets like a lot of different interpretations for sure.
Yeah, I was just curious. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Dawn, are you ready? Welcome back to the Hot Stove Society Show in Cairo. Thanks to Grace Lin once again for putting up with me for 7 whole segments with her book. We're going to jump into a new book that's very exciting also. It's called Bread and Roses by Rose Wilde. 100 plus grain forward recipes featuring global ingredients and botanicals.
Congratulations. 2 days out. How does it feel?
Oh my gosh, so exciting and surreal. You know, books take many years to write and you're often doing it alone. So this is really fun to finally have that moment of connection and see what people are getting excited about baking. So
Right.
I'm just so happy.
Well, my first one was almost 30 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
And it took almost 5 years between beginning and end of the contract and the
Totally.
ideas and the writing and the testing. Everything takes forever. So first line in your book, first page, discover brown flour. Seems
Yeah.
like the basis for what you're all about.
Yeah, I think so. My whole like underlying thing for all the work I do is definitely whole grains, which is, you know, colloquial. We call them brown flour because otherwise it's white flour.
Right.
And what that's really talking about is just that like everything's intact. So you're not only getting more flavor because you're tasting more, but you're getting more nutrition and it's more digestible. And as you know, like most things that are dough are like 80% just white flour and a structure component. So if there's an ability as a chef or a cook to put more flavor in something, I think we should take that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think whole grains are this incredible avenue for people to immediately add so much flavor to all their dishes.
Mm-hmm. And what are they getting when or what are they missing when they don't add it? So for example, if I'm grinding whole wheat flour and I'm grinding the husk or the core, the kernel, without all the husk and all the whole wheat part of it all, what are we missing nutritionally and flavor wise?
Yeah, so
nuts, right? If in the beginning,
it's everything really, because a grain basically has 3 parts: the germ, the endosperm, and the bran. And when we talk about white flour, we're only talking about the endosperm, which is the structure component. It's where like the gluten is. It's giving us just the ability for things to rise and hold air. But also, like, say we make a croissant with it, really all we're tasting is butter because the flour has no flavor. But when we mill whole grain, we are leaving intact that bran and that endosperm and the Germany brand, sorry. And what those have in them are like enzymes and fatty acids and vitamins and flavor and all the stuff that helps you digest that endosperm. So you're already adding in something that's going to make that more easier on your stomach, which is, you know, great news because a lot of us have different kind of issues with that. But also those things have flavor. So now, like, let's say you use spelt in that croissant. Now it's going to taste a little funky, have this sort of hay taste. It's a little grassy. There's a butter component to it. And now that croissant is so much more complex and interesting. And I just think that's worth it.
And the good butter, I mean, a lot of croissants are over 60% butter, so it's actually worth it.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, you'll
just
still
'cause-
taste that butter, but it's going to
Exactly.
be layered and balanced and have all these other like interesting components to it.
Another area of your book I love was how to cake. We don't think about that often, right? Because it's like, how do you live the cake life?
How do you live the cake life? The cake life is awesome. I think cake is really special because it's really something you only have when you want to have like a joyous occasion. You know, the great Julia Child said, a party without a cake is just a meeting. So we want to have all the parties, none of the meetings. But yeah, in the beginning of the book, you'll find these like intensive sections of like how to tart, how to cookie, how to cake, how to bread. And I really wanted to provide a deep dive of a perspective so that you could like kind of learn and abstract that to your own recipes as well as apply them to the book. So there's sort of these little reference sections in the center, and the how to cake you like how to stack, how to create the wells, how to add your different fillings, and just have a successful showstopper cake, because every chapter ends with a big showstopper cake.
Exactly. And cake is salad, for God's sake.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I read that somewhere.
That's kind of your tagline.
This
So
is my more controversial tagline. The cake is salad. But going back to talking about how much more flavor and nutrition you get in the cake layers, I like to make a comparison to like a great Caesar, right? There's croutons, there's cake layers, there's a creamy frosting, there's a creamy dressing. And then I put filling in it, which is all like fruits. And I really love to blow people's minds with this, which is that there are no such things as vegetables, botanically speaking. It's all root, stalk, leaf, and fruiting body and blossoms. Vegetables are a social construct of what we eat when in the meal. So if you go to different cultures, vegetables sort of change allegiances and hop around. So knowing that, it's sort of freed up for me. Like I can put anything on cake, and suddenly I have radicchio and treviso and beautiful like cranberry beans. So salad? Salad. Pretty much a salad.
Yeah, it's, I attributed your quote to somebody else earlier in the show, but the root to flower is part of your tagline of using every part and enjoying it for what it presents as a root or as a flower.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I really advocate this root to blossom, which is sort of my answer to the plant world of the like nose to tail cooking. And it's really to point out that like we forget that so many parts of the plant are edible, and they have a flavor reflective of maybe the part of the plant that we more commonly eat. And they can still add so much like color, beauty, layering of flavor. So many of my recipes are using multiple parts of the plant so that you really get the full impact of that. And I think that we've just sort of lost that. Whereas in many cultures, there's like whole days set aside to go out into the fields and like gather that bolting arugula for your salad during that season. And we've regulated that to fine dining, but it's really the food of the people. So that's very much, I think, what I'm trying to bring back to people is just to know that, you can have sustenance and beauty, bread and roses.
Why not?
Bread and roses. If
You're a cake baker, Loretta, pie baker. What do you like out of this?
Well, I am a white flour baker, right? So I'm starting from that basic perspective. So I guess my question is, if you were going to tell me to start with one whole grain that I may not have experimented with before, what would you dive into first?
Can we have a moment of silence for our white flour baker?
It's not your fault. It's what you were raised on.
It's
Not
your fault.
Oh, it's my fault. I knew that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, it's great knowing what you love to make. Like knowing you love to make cake and pie, I would recommend a grain that's more suited for pastry for you to first fall in love with. Einkorn, spelt, or Sonora, all three of these can kind of do double duty. Sonora especially is a beautiful like one-to-one swap out without changing anything, and it's going to give you an incredibly more flavorful product that's, again, more digestible, more nutrient dense, without you having to change much. When you get into the hard red grains, when you're talking about making like bread or more complex structure things, you're going to be working with changing hydration and stuff. But ultimately, it's like whatever recipe you know and love, like if you make incredible biscuits, just take that recipe and throw in handfuls of different grains and see how it plays. Like you have all the skills for you to figure out how to use these. And in my book, I provided a flour tasting wheel to also give you the opportunity.
Best illustrations ever, by the way.
Yay! Stacy Michelson was my illustrator. She's a wonderful artist in Los Angeles, and she did a great job taking like all this information that was in my head and putting it in a way that was digestible
and visual.
And visual. Yeah. So basically this flour tasting wheel asks you to kind of abstract in the same way that you would with wine or cheese and recognize terroir, because grains really pull from their environment. They chemically change based on if there was a drought or if there was a lot of rain. So having the ability to have the language as you taste these things, since they're new to so many of us, I think is the first step of access. And there's some little tests in there too, like putting it under your tongue to see how fast it dissolves, and that'll tell you if it's pastry or bread worthy. Making a little shortbread with it so you can see how it plays with butter and sugar. So I really want to provide like tons of scaffolding so that you can like leapfrog off my knowledge into your own like wildly creative whole grain adventures.
So awesome.
One of the chapters I love in your book is sugaring, where you sugar pears, you sugar fruits. That's part of your fillings or part of your garnishes. And I think that's an interesting technique for people to learn, because I don't think people know a lot about it. They don't even know how to frost a cranberry.
True.
Yeah, which is very apropos for the season that's coming up.
Yeah,
like little ways to make things more beautiful.
Yep.
In the pantry section, you'll find all kinds of different little techniques to candy. But the egg white and sugar is like such an easy one for everyone to like replicate, and it's stunning immediately.
Yeah. Well, your book is called Bread and Roses, and if you look at the pictures, you'll understand why. The flour work is unbelievable, and I'm not talking about necessarily cake flour, like sugar flowers. I'm talking about real flowers.
Yeah.
You use the cutting garden all throughout your book.
Absolutely, and not just for garnish. Like I said, it's deeply layered in the flavor. There's some chamomile shortbread where you're steeping it in, and so you really get to taste these like really ephemeral and beautiful things. And I did a lot of research on like not only edible flowers according to the country we're in, America, but also a global perspective, because we forget that food can be political, and there can be reasons why we hear not to eat something that have nothing to do with the food itself. So I really tried to share that global perspective from my travels to show that, you know, someone here might be like, don't eat a tulip, but they eat them in France. So it's fine. Eat your tulips, eat your dahlias. They're all delicious and beautiful.
Right.
And there is a line to be drawn between edible and palatable, right? There are a lot of things that are edible, but what's palatable is going to change from me to you, Tom.
Right.
And you, Loretta. Like it really makes it such a beautiful experience having food.
No, it's awesome. Well, I love the book.
Thank you.
As you heard me say earlier, I've been enamored with Grace Lin's book, and this is the first one to get me off of that in 8 weeks. So
Yes.
It's called Bread and Roses. Rose Wilde, Wilde is the author, and you have a bakery in LA.
I do.
And
you have a beautiful Instagram.
Thank you.
Everything really, I mean, everything is just colorful and bright and beautiful, including you. Like it all really comes together.
Oh, thank you so
and
much.
it seems very reflective of you.
I'm very spoiled in California. We have a really great access to
I
beautiful
know. I
farms.
saw the pictures like, hello, it's November.
Find you.
So people can find me in Los Angeles. I'm at Bakery Red Bread, or online at www.eatredbread.com, or follow along at TRoseWild on Instagram.
All right, now we're going to check your other skills, because you're going to stay for food for thought, tasty trivia brought to you by Rub with Love.
Yes.
Spice Rubs on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
Well, that went by fast.
Yay. Thank
Segments
you,
are so
Tom.
quick.
Thank you.
Should I just stay here?
Yeah.
Okay.
You leaving us? Bye, Frances. Nice to see you.
Yeah, pass them around.
Yeah, if you guys are able to join this evening at Book Larder, there's going to be tons of things from the book to eat and snack on, and I'll be there in conversation with this beautiful lady at the end of the bar there, who's also up here in Seattle. And it would be lovely to see you and feed you brownies.
Wow.
What kind of brownies?
Quinoa
Speaking of
persimmon
flowers.
brownies.
Quinoa persimmon.
Yeah.
What about the barley miso chocolate chunk cookie? That sounded really good.
Yes. Barley is such a really beautiful, like
I love
vanilla-y,
barley,
like
yeah.
malted flavor.
I have buckwheat on mine. I love buckwheat. And I saw
Yes.
you have, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
buckwheat's a beautiful grain that needs to get used more.
We're making crepes at our new restaurant, Neb, called out of chestnut flour, and it's really nice, especially when you toast it first. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Even toasting grains releases a whole nother depth that can be lovely. So yeah, I hope people play so much.
Okay.
I'm gonna get my behind kicked. I feel like between these two today.
I did change the questions when it wasn't Bridget. I thought, oh, Loretta will not like this.
Yes.
I don't like that a bit.
I have no idea what to expect.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh yeah, you'll be fine.
Okay.
We're back, and we're going to play some Rub with Love Food for Thought Tasty Trivia. As we wrap up National Seafood Month, Rub with Love wants to help make your next meal easy and scrumptious, whether it's fish taco rub, which is our newest, or salmon rub for Sunday supper. You can find our products here at the Hot Stove Society, at the Seatown Rub Shack down in the Pike Place Market area, Serious Pie in Ballard, and of course online. We have a guy named My Buddy Stan, or a shop named My Buddy Stan. You don't even know it's him, but he sells a lot of our product on Amazon or one of 5,000 retailers around the country. We appreciate them and you. Becky, tell us how to play the game and what our winner has to do here today. I know if Rose wins, she's going to have to pick somebody out of the audience to give her prize to.
Ooh.
Excellent.
If Loretta wins, she has to pick somebody out of the audience to give their prize to. And I never win, so it doesn't matter.
Well, we'll see about that. Things might change. We'll
All right.
see. So each of you are going to get 5 questions.
Were you feeling sorry because I broke my hand?
A little bit, but we'll see.
Don't throw
We'll
many
see.
softballs.
And whoever gets the most questions wins.
Okay.
And let's start with Loretta. Okay,
All
Loretta,
right.
number 1. In what country were French fries invented? And would you like options?
And would you like
Yeah, I want multiple choice.
Already it starts.
Yep, that's right. France, Belgium, or the U.S.?
Belgium.
You got it. They were actually invented in Belgium. What grain is the primary ingredient in the Middle Eastern dish tabbouleh?
I bet the Belgians didn't call them French fries.
They spoke French. No, you're right.
Tabbouleh, it's like a cut. Great.
There's some cheating going on
Bulgur.
here with the contestants. What?
Bulgur.
Bulgur wheat. Should we give it to her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's learning.
Oh,
She's
that's
got
sweet.
12-week-old twins.
Okay,
My brain is somewhere else. We
that's
gotta-
fair. Okay, I'll go easy. What is the official cocktail of New Orleans?
The official cocktail of New Orleans.
And I could give you
Got a Z
ingredients. Oh yeah,
It has a Z. Sazerac.
you
Yeah.
got it. That's right.
Oh,
Everyone's
nice.
helping Loretta. In Arkansas, if you were to order buffalo ribs, would you get served a partial rack of barbecued American bison or fried fish sticks?
Fish sticks.
But for sure, it's from
Yeah.
the big mouth buffalo fish.
Wow, I don't feel like I want to run into one of those. Something tells me
My
it's
guess
not.
is it's a freshwater
it's not
fish.
cute.
It's a freshwater fish with a lot of cartilage. Your final question. What is the most popular spice in the world?
Spice.
Spice.
Is it a warm or a hot spice?
Warm.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know. Black pepper.
Black pepper. You got it.
Wow.
Would you call that
I'm
a
not
warm
sure
spice?
I would call that a warm spice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not playing. I'm just. All right.
Congratulations.
It's like a
5
5 out
for
of
5.
5. Good job. Okay, Rose, you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
In Indian cuisine, what grain is used to make flatbreads like chapati and naan?
Chapati and naan.
Chapati
Same
and
thing.
What
Same
grain?
thing.
What grain? Just simple grain.
Oh, I
You-
chickpea?
Wheat.
You
Wheat?
know
Oh,
wheat.
really? It's
yeah.
just regular
It's
wheat?
yeah.
Okay. I feel like that was
She
a
just
trick
doesn't
question.
use white flour.
I know,
Don't
I
you
know.
notice that?
I'm like, that's not specific enough. I'm going to need another question from the judge.
Okay, so we'll do a true or false this one.
Okay.
Buckwheat, groats, millet, and quinoa are all gluten-free. Is that true or false?
Buckwheat, millet, and quinoa are all gluten-free. Yes, naturally.
Wonderful. Because they're technically seeds, right?
They are seeds. Yeah. So
Excellent.
like it's really fun.
Okay, this is a tough one. Could you please tell us what turns a martini into a dirty martini?
Oh, olive juice.
You got it.
Extra
Oh,
dirty,
that
please.
sounds like
Wow.
experience there.
That's how I like my mostly olive juice side of vodka.
Exactly. And then the jar, please.
Yeah.
And then what is the only food that doesn't spoil over time?
The only food?
It's a little bit sweet.
It's sweet. I mean, are we talking about an ingredient?
Mm-hmm.
So sugar?
Honey.
Honey. Oh,
Honey.
okay.
Yep.
I
They
wouldn't
just found the oldest jar found is believed to be over 5,000 years old.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is the natural preservative,
Yeah.
and you can use it to top off other things. I feel like my questions were trickier than yours, Loretta.
You're not done yet, Missy.
Okay, you've got one more.
Okay.
Can you please name the tiny ancient grain that originated in Africa and
Tef.
is Yeah, got it.
Don't even need to
It's in the
continue.
same family as millet, and it's tiny, tiny.
It's super tiny. Actually, the name comes from the word of that area to mean lost, because
read
so
that in a
much
book.
is lost
Uh-huh.
while you're trying to package it, because it's the
Interesting.
size of the head of a pin.
That's it. That's
Wow.
it. Well, thank you for playing. You were a lot of fun.
Thank you.
3 out of
It
5.
makes beautiful steam bread too. The injera.
Yes,
Yeah.
the injera, yeah.
Okay, Tom. If you ordered an omelet Arnold Bennett, what fish would you find in it?
An omelet. What?
Arnold Bennett. It's a classic dish, English dish, named after the novelist that was created a novel at the Savoy Hotel in London in the 20s, and it's still on the menu today. It's
A kipper.
smoked haddock.
Yeah, a kipper.
Same thing. Okay, one, you got it. Okay, this is fun.
Easily.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally.
Can you please name a well-known band that shares the name of a food?
The show shares the name of the food. A well-known band, local or international?
Any international.
Well, some people eat beetles, so I'm just going to name Beatles.
There you go.
my
I
God.
like that.
Was it cake?
Loretta has one too.
I was gonna say cake.
I was going to
Yeah.
say cake.
Oh, I didn't even have that. I had Red Hot Chili Peppers, Meatloaf, the Cranberries, Bread, Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam,
Oh,
Heart.
so a
and-
lot of them.
A
We
lot.
added a few to the mix.
Yes, we did.
And you
Remember,
went
I
with
thought of
Beatles.
cake, though.
Number 3, which alcoholic spirit uses an E in its spelling if it's produced in Ireland or the US and doesn't have an E in its spelling if it's produced in Scotland, Canada, or other countries?
Whiskey.
You got
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Well
You would know
done.
a thing or two about
Yes.
whiskey.
See, I threw you a softball.
Yeah, that was
What does the term kippering mean?
hard smoking.
You got it. Preserving fish through brining and smoking.
Yeah.
Finally, what vegetable known for its pungent odor is often used to flavor dishes but is rarely eaten?
What vegetable? Really? It's rarely eaten?
No, rarely eaten raw. I'm sorry.
Oh, rarely eaten
rarely
raw.
eaten raw.
Yeah.
I'm really
Leeks.
sorry. Garlic.
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 Yeah, garlic.
Ah,
4
I
out of
thought I
5.
had it.
Loretta,
Loretta
is
is
the
our winner.
winner.
Yay.
Yay.
Nice job, Loretta.
Nice
Get
team
to pick
effort with
somebody out
Rose
of our
there.
audience. They get to pick 3 free spice rubs out of our gift shop. There we go.
Wow.
If you want to be part of the show, you can join our community on YouTube Live at Tom Douglas & Co. or buy a ticket to join us in the studio at hotstovesociety.com. The show is produced by Becky Guzak, the Tom Douglas team. Sean McFadden is our technical wizard, and our talented editor at Cairo is Sean Don't Call Me Del Torre. Remember, if you miss any episode of our Hot Stove Society show on Cairo, you can listen via podcast. Just subscribe with your favorite podcast app.
Thank you for listening.
All right. Nice job, Loretta. Okay, we need quiet on the set. Can you turn the fans off, please? Can you reach, or do you want me to come back and lift you up over there? I can give you a piggyback ride up the elevator. Okay, here we go. Bridget, knives up. Hi, I'm Tom Douglas.
I'm Loretta Douglas.
This afternoon on the Hot Stove Society radio show, we wrap up National Seafood Month with Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association. Charlotte Douglas is here from Rose 7 Seed Company. Rose Wilde is here to talk about her wild new book, Bread and Roses, and our final segment with Grace Lin and her book, Chinese Menu. All right, thank you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.